The dusty train platform at Douglas, Arizona, wavered in the brutal afternoon heat of 1882, and Lily Preston stood frozen among the dispersing crowd with her worn carpetbag clutched in trembling hands, realizing with dawning horror that she had nowhere left in this world to go. The telegram had arrived 3 days ago in St. Louis, short and brutal in its efficiency. Her Aunt Martha, the only living relative who might have taken her in, had passed away from pneumonia 2 weeks prior. The small inheritance Lily had counted on to start fresh out west had been consumed by debts and funeral expenses. Now she stood on Arizona soil with $8.30 to her name, no family, no prospects, and the burning sun pressing down on her like the weight of every poor decision that had led her here. Other passengers brushed past her, greeting waiting family members or heading purposefully toward the hotels and boarding houses that lined the main street. Lily tried to swallow past the tightness in her throat. She was 22 years old, orphaned at 19 when her parents died in a tenement fire, and had spent the last 3 years working as a seamstress in increasingly desperate circumstances. When the factory where she worked had burned down last month, she had scraped together every penny for this train ticket west, betting everything on the kindness of an aunt she barely remembered. She moved slowly toward the edge of the platform, trying to look purposeful rather than lost. The station agent was already closing up the ticket window. A few stragglers remained, but they were loading wagons or mounting horses. The sun was beginning its descent toward the distant mountains, painting the desert landscape in shades of copper and gold. "Miss, you all right there?" The voice was deep and warm, tinged with genuine concern. Lily turned to find a tall man watching her from near a hitching post where a magnificent bay horse stood patiently. He was perhaps 27 or 28, with sun-bronzed skin and dark hair that curled slightly at the edges beneath his wide-brimmed hat. His clothes marked him as a working rancher, practical and well-worn but clean. What struck her most were his eyes, a startling shade of blue-gray that seemed to see more than she wanted to reveal. "I'm fine, thank you," Lily said automatically, the lie sitting bitter on her tongue. The man tilted his head slightly, studying her with a directness that made her want to look away. "You've been standing there watching that platform like you're waiting for it to tell you something for the better part of 20 minutes now. And unless I'm mistaken, that's the same bag you've been holding when I first noticed you. No one coming to meet you?" Heat flooded Lily's cheeks, and it had nothing to do with the Arizona sun. "I can manage my own affairs, sir." "Didn't say you couldn't." He walked closer, moving with an easy grace that spoke of a man comfortable in his own skin. Up close, she could see the lines around his eyes from squinting into bright sunlight, the strength in his hands, the way he carried himself with quiet confidence. "Name's Benjamin Parker. I own a cattle ranch about 8 miles north of here. Been in town picking up supplies and saw you getting off that eastbound train. You look like someone who just got some bad news." Lily's carefully maintained composure cracked slightly. She pressed her lips together, willing herself not to cry in front of this stranger. "My circumstances are not your concern, Mr. Parker." "Maybe not," he agreed easily. "But my mama raised me to help folks when they need it, and you've got that look about you. The kind that says you came here expecting one thing and found something else entirely." The gentleness in his voice nearly undid her. Lily drew a shaky breath and decided that pride was a luxury she could no longer afford. "The relative I came to stay with has passed away. I arrived too late." Understanding dawned in Benjamin Parker's eyes, followed by something that looked like sympathy without the pity that would have made her flinch. "I'm real sorry to hear that. This town's got a few boarding houses, but they run about $2 a week, and jobs for women are scarce unless you want to work in the saloons, which I'm guessing you don't." "I'm a seamstress," Lily said, then immediately felt foolish. What good were sewing skills in a rough Arizona border town? "That so?" Benjamin seemed to consider this. "Well now, that's actually useful out here. Most ranch hands go around with more holes in their clothes than fabric. Tell you what, Miss Preston, Lily Preston. Miss Preston," he said her name with careful respect. "My ranch has room for you. Got a big house that my sister lived in until she married last year. Whole west wing sits empty now. I've got a housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, who does the cooking and manages the household. She's been saying we need someone to help with the mending and such. You could stay there, do sewing work for the ranch hands, maybe take in work from some of the other spreads in the area. Pay wouldn't be much at first, but you'd have room and board, and it would give you time to figure out your next step." Lily stared at him, certain she had misheard. "You're offering me a place to stay? You don't even know me." "That's true enough," Benjamin acknowledged, "but I'm a pretty good judge of character. And you strike me as someone who's had some hard luck but aren't looking for a handout. You want to work for your keep, I can see that. And the truth is, I could use the help. Running a ranch takes a lot out of clothes, and Mrs. Chen's got enough to do without adding mending to her list." It was too convenient, too perfectly timed. Lily's experience had taught her that when something seemed too good to be true, it usually was. "Why would you do this for a complete stranger?" Benjamin shifted his weight, looking almost embarrassed. "About 4 years back, I was caught in a flash flood up in the mountains. Would have drowned if a traveling preacher hadn't pulled me out and let me recover in his camp for 3 days. When I asked him why he'd risk his life for someone he didn't know, he said, 'That's just what you do when someone needs help.' Said that kindness has a way of rippling out into the world, and he expected I'd pass it along someday. So I guess I'm doing that." The story had the ring of truth to it, and something in Lily's chest loosened slightly. She looked at Benjamin Parker, really looked at him, trying to assess whether this was genuine charity or something with hidden strings. His expression was open, patient, waiting for her decision without pressure. She thought about her alternatives: $8 that might last a week if she was very careful, a town where she knew no one, and the very real possibility of ending up in exactly the kind of desperate situation that had plagued too many women she had known back east. "I would earn my keep," she said firmly. "I won't accept charity." "Wouldn't offer it," Benjamin replied. "This would be honest work for honest pay. $1 a week plus room and board to start. If you bring in outside work, you keep those earnings. If it doesn't work out, I'll bring you back to town, no questions asked, but I think you'll find the ranch is a good place. Peaceful. Safe. Safe." The word hung in the air between them like a promise. When had Lily last felt safe? "All right," she heard herself say, "I'll come work at your ranch, Mr. Parker." A smile spread across his face, transforming his features from handsome to genuinely beautiful. "Call me Benjamin. Or Ben, most folks do. Let me help you with that bag." He reached for her carpet bag, and Lily found herself surrendering it. He hefted it easily, then gestured toward his horse. "This is Ranger, best horse in 3 counties, or so I tell him. He can carry us both out to the ranch. It's a good ride, but we'll make it before full dark." Lily had never ridden a horse in her life, a fact that became immediately apparent when Benjamin helped her up into the saddle. He swung up behind her with practiced ease, one arm settling around her waist to steady her. The contact made her stiffen, but his touch was impersonal, merely practical. "Relax," he said quietly near her ear. "Ranger's smooth as silk. Just move with him. Don't fight it." As they rode out of Douglas, Lily tried to process the strangeness of her situation. This morning she had been on a train, dreading her arrival, but still hopeful. An hour ago, she had been standing on a platform feeling more alone than she ever had in her life. Now she was riding through the Arizona desert with a stranger who had offered her shelter, pressed against his solid warmth as his horse carried them toward an uncertain future. The landscape around them was unlike anything Lily had ever seen. She had grown up among cramped buildings and crowded streets, where the sky was a narrow strip between rooflines, and nature meant the weeds pushing through sidewalk cracks. Here, the sky seemed endless, a vast dome of deepening blue scattered with the first emerging stars. The desert stretched out in all directions, dotted with strange plants that Benjamin identified as mesquite, creosote, and various types of cactus. Mountains rose in the distance, purple shadows against the sunset. "It's beautiful," Lily murmured, not meaning to speak aloud. She felt Benjamin's slight nod behind her. "Took me a while to see it when I first came out here. I'm from Missouri originally. Green hills and oak trees. This seemed like nothing but dirt and rocks and heat. But it grows on you. There's something honest about this land. It doesn't pretend to be anything other than what it is." "How long have you been here?" 8 years now. Came out when I was 20 with my father and older brother. Pa wanted to start a cattle operation, thought the open range and the railroad coming through meant opportunity. He was right about that. He passed 3 years ago, left the ranch to me and my brother. Then Jacob met a woman in Tucson and decided ranching wasn't for him. Sold me his half and moved to the city. My sister Sarah lived with me until she married a banker from Bisbee last spring. There was something wistful in his tone when he mentioned his sister. "You miss her," Lily said. "Every day. She kept the house lively, always singing or reading out loud from books. Mrs. Chen's wonderful, but she's not much for conversation. Gets lonely sometimes, just me and the ranch hands. That's part of why I jumped at the chance to offer you the position. Selfish reasons, I suppose. Nice to have someone to talk to over supper." His honesty was disarming. Lily found herself relaxing slightly against him, her body adjusting to the horse's rhythm. "I've spent most of my life around people. Tenements are never quiet. But I was still lonely. Strange, isn't it? You can be surrounded by humanity and still feel utterly alone." "I don't think that's strange at all," Benjamin said quietly. They rode in companionable silence as the stars brightened overhead. Lily had never seen so many stars, a glittering expanse that took her breath away. The desert air cooled quickly after sunset, and she shivered slightly. Benjamin shifted behind her, and she felt him shrug out of his jacket and drape it around her shoulders. It smelled of leather and sage and something distinctly masculine that made her pulse quicken inexplicably. "Thank you," she managed. "Can't have you catching cold your first night. Mrs. Chen would never forgive me." The ranch appeared gradually, lights becoming visible in the distance that resolved into a sprawling adobe structure with a tile roof and a large barn nearby. Outbuildings dotted the property, and Lily could see the dark shapes of cattle in distant pens. It was larger than she had expected, more prosperous. Benjamin guided Ranger to the front of the house and dismounted, then helped Lily down. Her legs were shaky from the unaccustomed riding, and she stumbled slightly. His hand steadied her, strong and sure. "You did real well for your first ride," he said encouragingly. The front door opened, and a small, sturdy woman emerged carrying a lantern. She was Chinese, probably in her 50s, with sharp eyes that assessed Lily in one sweeping glance. "Mrs. Chen, this is Miss Lily Preston," Benjamin said. "She's going to be staying in the West Wing, helping with mending and sewing work around the ranch." Mrs. Chen's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in her eyes that might have been approval. "The West Wing has been closed up since Miss Sarah left. It will need airing out." "I can help with that," Lily said quickly. "I don't want to create extra work." "You look like you're about to fall over," Mrs. Chen said bluntly. "When did you last eat?" Lily tried to remember. "This morning. Some bread on the train." Mrs. Chen made a disapproving sound and turned to Benjamin. "Put the horse away. I will feed this girl before she collapses. Then I will prepare the room." She ushered Lily inside with surprising gentleness, and Benjamin smiled. "Best follow her instructions. Mrs. Chen's word is law around here." The interior of the house was cool and spacious, with thick adobe walls and beautiful tile work. Mrs. Chen led Lily to a large kitchen where wonderful smells emanated from a pot on the stove. She was settled at a wooden table and presented with a bowl of rich stew, fresh bread, and water. "Eat slowly," Mrs. Chen instructed. "Your stomach will rebel if you rush after going hungry." Lily obeyed, trying not to wolf down the food despite her ravenous hunger. The stew was delicious, full of tender beef and vegetables in a savory broth. Mrs. Chen moved around the kitchen with efficient grace, and Lily noticed the calluses on her hands, the way she carried herself with quiet dignity. "Thank you for this," Lily said between bites. "You're very kind." "Mr. Benjamin is kind," Mrs. Chen corrected. "I am practical. A hungry woman is no good for sewing. Eat." Benjamin came in after tending to his horse, washing up at a basin near the door. He joined them at the table, and Mrs. Chen served him as well. The easy familiarity between them spoke of years together, a mutual respect that went beyond employer and employee. "How long have you worked for Benjamin?" Lily asked. "I came with my husband 8 years ago when Mr. Benjamin's father started the ranch. My husband was a cook. I was to help with the household. He died 4 years ago during a fever that swept through. Mr. Benjamin's father died the same week. Mr. Benjamin kept me on, said I was family now." She said it matter-of-factly, but there was warmth beneath the words. "I'm sorry for your loss," Lily said softly. Mrs. Chen nodded once, a sharp acknowledgement of shared grief. "Loss is part of life. We go on. Now you are here, so you go on too." After dinner, Mrs. Chen led Lily through the house to the West Wing. The rooms had clearly belonged to a woman who loved beautiful things. The bedroom was spacious, with a large bed covered in quilts, a dresser with an oval mirror, and windows that would let in morning light. Everything was dusty, but otherwise well maintained. "Miss Sarah's things are in storage," Mrs. Chen explained. "She said whoever stayed here next should make it their own. I will bring fresh linens." "It's beautiful," Lily said honestly. "I've never had a room to myself before." Mrs. Chen paused in the doorway, studying Lily with those sharp eyes. "Mr. Benjamin is a good man, honorable. You will be safe here." The statement hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Mrs. Chen was making sure Lily understood that this truly was a safe harbor, not a trap. Lily felt tears prick her eyes again and blinked them back. "I can see that," she said, "and I'm grateful." Mrs. Chen nodded, satisfied, and bustled off to get linens. Lily stood in the center of the room, hardly able to believe the turn her life had taken in just a few hours. This morning, she had been alone and desperate. Tonight she had shelter, food, and the promise of honest work. She walked to the window and looked out over the desert landscape, silvered by moonlight. Somewhere in the darkness, she heard Benjamin's voice talking to the ranch hands, the low rumble of male conversation and occasional laughter. It was a good sound, she decided. The sound of life continuing, of men working together, of normalcy. Mrs. Chen returned with fresh sheets and blankets, and together they made up the bed. The older woman showed her where the washroom was, provided her with towels and a nightgown that had belonged to Sarah. "Sleep now," Mrs. Chen instructed. "Tomorrow you can see the ranch properly. Mr. Benjamin will want to introduce you to the men and show you the work." Alone at last, Lily changed into the borrowed nightgown and sat on the edge of the bed. The events of the day washed over her in a wave of delayed emotion. She had been so close to disaster, standing on that platform with nowhere to go and no one to turn to. And then Benjamin Parker had appeared, offering help without judgment, extending kindness to a stranger because someone had once done the same for him. She thought about his face, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, the steadiness in his voice. He was handsome, certainly, but it was more than that. There was a quality of goodness about him that she had rarely encountered in men. He had been respectful, keeping proper distance even while offering aid. He had seen her desperation and responded with compassion rather than exploitation. Lily lay back on the bed, feeling the softness of the mattress and the weight of the quilts. Through the open window, the desert night sang with crickets and distant coyotes. She had no idea what tomorrow would bring, what working on this ranch would entail, or how long she would stay. But for the first time in longer than she could remember, she felt the tight knot of fear in her chest begin to loosen. As she drifted toward sleep, her last thought was of Benjamin Parker's voice saying, "My ranch has room for you," and the way those words had felt like a lifeline thrown to a drowning woman. Morning came with brilliant sunshine pouring through the windows and the smell of coffee and bacon wafting through the house. Lily woke disoriented, momentarily forgetting where she was. Then memory rushed back, and she sat up quickly, taking in the unfamiliar room in daylight. It was even prettier than she had realized, with whitewashed walls and colorful woven rugs on the floor. She dressed quickly in one of her two serviceable dresses, a simple gray cotton that was showing wear but was still decent. After brushing and pinning her long brown hair, she ventured out into the main part of the house. Mrs. Chen was in the kitchen, moving between stove and counter with practiced efficiency. She glanced up as Lily entered. "You slept well?" "Better than I have in months," Lily admitted. "Is there something I can help with?" "Sit, eat breakfast, then Mr. Benjamin will show you around." Mrs. Chen placed a plate of eggs, bacon, and biscuits in front of her, along with coffee so strong Lily's eyes watered slightly at the first sip. Benjamin appeared a few minutes later, clearly having already been up for hours. His hair was damp from washing, and he looked alert and energized in a way that made Lily feel sluggish by comparison. "Morning, Miss Preston," he greeted her with that warm smile. "Hope you slept all right." "Very well, thank you. And please, call me Lily. Miss Preston sounds far too formal given the circumstances." "Lily it is then." He accepted coffee from Mrs. Chen and sat across from Lily at the table. "Thought I'd show you around the place after breakfast. Introduce you to the hands, let you get a feel for what's what. That work for you?" "Of course. I'm eager to start earning my keep." The tour of the ranch revealed an operation that was both larger and more organized than Lily had imagined. Benjamin employed 6 full-time ranch hands, all living in a bunkhouse near the barn. The men ranged in age from a grizzled veteran named Hank, who had to be 60 if he was a day, to a lanky young man barely 18 called Tommy. They were respectful when Benjamin introduced Lily, tipping their hats and mumbling greetings, though she caught the curious glances they exchanged. "Lily's going to be handling mending and sewing work," Benjamin explained to them. "Any of you need clothes repaired, you bring them up to the house. She'll also be taking in outside work, so spread the word to other ranches that we've got a seamstress available." "My wife's been complaining about my work shirts for months," one of the hands said. "I'll bring them by later if that's all right, miss." "Of course," Lily said. "I'm happy to help." Benjamin showed her the barn, where she met more horses and the ranch cat, a battle-scarred orange tom named General Sherman. The chickens lived in a sturdy coop, and there was even a small garden where Mrs. Chen grew vegetables. "We try to be as self-sufficient as possible," Benjamin explained. "The nearest town is Douglas, and it's a good ride. So we keep chickens for eggs, the garden for vegetables, and we trade beef to other ranches for pork or mutton when we want variety." Everything about the ranch spoke of careful planning and hard work. The fences were well maintained, the buildings in good repair. Benjamin clearly took pride in the operation, and the men respected him. Lily watched how he interacted with them, easy and familiar, but still clearly the boss. He listened when they talked about problems with the herd or equipment needs, and he made decisions quickly and fairly. As they walked back toward the house, Benjamin said, "I should probably explain the arrangement more clearly. You'll take your meals with me and Mrs. Chen in the main house. The west wing is yours, completely private. Mrs. Chen and I are in the east wing. The hands know to come to the back door if they need something, and they're good men. But if anyone makes you uncomfortable or acts improperly, you tell me immediately. That goes for anyone who comes to the ranch for sewing work, too. You're under my protection here." The words were delivered casually, but Lily heard the steel beneath them. Benjamin Parker was making it clear that he would tolerate no impropriety toward her. It was both reassuring and somewhat overwhelming. "I appreciate that," she said quietly. "And I'll work hard. I promise you won't regret taking a chance on me." He stopped walking and turned to face her, his expression serious. "Lily, I don't think I'm going to regret it at all. Truth is, this place has felt empty since Sarah left. Oh, Mrs. Chen's wonderful, but she's not one for chatting. I think having you here is going to be good for all of us." There was something in his eyes that made Lily's breath catch slightly. Not anything improper, just a warmth and genuine pleasure in her company that she found deeply appealing. She realized with a start that Benjamin Parker was not just kind and honorable. He was also lonely, reaching out for human connection in the same way she was. The first week passed in a blur of activity. Lily settled into a routine that felt both foreign and comforting. She woke early, had breakfast with Benjamin and Mrs. Chen, and then spent her days at the sewing machine that Sarah had left behind. The ranch hands brought her an astonishing array of torn shirts, pants with blown-out knees, and jackets missing buttons. She repaired everything with careful precision, taking pride in her neat stitches and attention to detail. Word spread quickly that the Parker Ranch had a seamstress, and soon Lily was taking in work from other ranches and even some of the families in Douglas. A rancher's wife brought her a dress to alter, then commissioned a new skirt. A merchant from town asked if she could make curtains. The work was steady and satisfying, and Lily found herself actually enjoying the long hours at the sewing machine. Evenings were spent at dinner with Benjamin and Mrs. Chen, and these meals became Lily's favorite part of the day. Benjamin was an easy conversationalist, sharing stories about the ranch and asking about her life back east. She found herself opening up to him in ways she hadn't expected, telling him about her parents and their deaths, about the hard years working in the factory, about her dreams of something better. "I always wanted to own a little dress shop," she confessed one night over dessert. "Nothing fancy, just a place where women could come for well-made clothes at fair prices. I'm good at what I do, and I thought maybe if I saved enough money I could make it happen someday." "Why can't you?" Benjamin asked. "Seems to me you're already building the foundation. You're developing a client base, getting known for quality work. Give it a year or two and you could probably open a shop in Douglas. Town's growing, and there's definitely a need for what you're describing." The idea had seemed like an impossible dream for so long that Lily almost couldn't process it as a real possibility. but Benjamin's matter-of-fact tone made it sound achievable. "I suppose I could," she said slowly. "I'd need to save money for rent and supplies and fabric inventory." "Keep your outside earnings like we agreed," Benjamin reminded her. "Save every penny you don't absolutely need to spend. I've got a friend at the bank in Douglas who could advise you on what you'd need to get started. No reason you couldn't make this happen, Lily." His belief in her was intoxicating. Lily had spent so long having her dreams dismissed or ignored that Benjamin's encouragement felt like water in the desert. She found herself working even harder, driven by the possibility of a future she could shape herself. But it wasn't just the work that made her happy. It was the life at the ranch itself. She loved waking to the sound of birds and distant cattle, loved the vast sky and clean air, loved the peaceful rhythm of days built around meaningful labor. Mrs. Chen proved to be a font of practical wisdom, teaching Lily about desert plants and how to handle the heat. The ranch hands were respectful and increasingly friendly, joking with her when they brought mending and complimenting her repairs. And then there was Benjamin himself. Lily found herself increasingly aware of him in ways that had nothing to do with gratitude. She noticed the way his shirt stretched across his shoulders when he lifted heavy objects, the sound of his laugh, the careful attention he paid when she spoke. He was unfailingly kind, but never condescending, treating her as an equal, despite the disparity in their circumstances. One evening, about 3 weeks after her arrival, they were sitting on the porch after dinner, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Mrs. Chen had gone to visit a friend in the nearby settlement, leaving them alone. "Can I ask you something?" Benjamin said, his tone careful. "Of course. Are you happy here? I mean truly happy, not just making the best of a difficult situation." Lily considered the question seriously. "I think I'm happier than I've been in years. This place, this life, it feels right in a way nothing has since my parents died." "Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense," Benjamin said quietly. "I feel the same way about the ranch. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be doing." He paused, then continued. "I'm glad you're here, Lily. Real glad. It's not just that you're helping with the work, though you are. It's that the house feels like a home again, having someone to talk to share meals with. I didn't realize how much I missed that until you arrived." His words sent warmth spreading through Lily's chest. "I'm glad I'm here too. When I think about where I might have ended up if you hadn't offered me this opportunity, it terrifies me. You saved me, Benjamin. I don't know if I've said that clearly enough, but you did." "I didn't save you," he protested. "I just gave you a chance. You're the one doing the work, building something. That's all you." They sat in companionable silence as darkness fell and stars began to emerge. Lily was acutely aware of Benjamin's presence beside her, the way his arm rested on the porch railing just inches from her own. She wondered if he felt the same pull she did, the growing attraction that went beyond gratitude or friendship into something deeper and more complicated. As if reading her thoughts, Benjamin said softly, "Lily, I need to be honest with you about something." Her heart began to beat faster. "All right. When I saw you on that platform, lost and alone, my first thought was to help. That was pure instinct, nothing more. But these past few weeks, getting to know you, having you here, I've found myself feeling things I didn't expect." He turned to look at her, his eyes serious in the dim light. "I'm drawn to you, Lily. More than I should be. Given that you work for me and are living under my roof, I want you to know that I would never pressure you or make you feel like you owe me anything beyond the work you're already doing. But I also can't pretend I don't feel what I feel. So I'm telling you this honestly, and then I'll leave it alone if that's what you want." Lily's breath caught in her throat. She had sensed the growing tension between them, but had been afraid to name it, afraid to hope. "And what do you feel?" she asked quietly. "I think I'm falling in love with you," Benjamin said simply. "Maybe already have fallen. You're beautiful and brave and talented. You make me laugh. You see the beauty in this harsh land the same way I do. When I imagine my future now, you're in it. But I don't want you to feel obligated to return those feelings just because I gave you a place to stay. That wouldn't be fair or right." Lily's mind raced. She thought about the past 3 weeks, about the way her heart lifted when Benjamin walked into a room, about how she found herself watching for him and listening for his voice. She thought about his kindness, his integrity, the way he made her feel valued and respected. And she thought about the flutter in her stomach when he smiled at her, the warmth that spread through her when they sat close together. "I think I'm falling in love with you too," she whispered. The joy that blazed across Benjamin's face was like the sun breaking through clouds. "Yeah? Yes?" Lily laughed, a little giddy with the admission. "I've been trying not to, trying to tell myself it was just gratitude or relief. But it's more than that. So much more. You're the most genuinely good man I've ever met, Benjamin Parker. And somewhere along the way, I stopped being able to imagine a future without you in it either." Benjamin reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and took her hand in his. His palm was calloused from ranch work, warm and strong. "Would it be all right if I courted you properly, took you to town for dinner, maybe brought you flowers, all the things a man does when he's trying to win a woman's heart?" "I'd like that very much," Lily said, "though you should know you've already won my heart. But yes, I'd like to be courted properly." He raised her hand to his lips and kissed it gently, a gesture so tender that Lily felt tears prick her eyes. Everything about this moment felt right, like puzzle pieces finally clicking into place. "We'll take it slow," Benjamin promised. "No rush. But Lily, I want you to know my intentions are serious. I'm not looking for a passing fancy or a casual arrangement. When I imagine my future, I imagine marriage and partnership and building a life together. I know it's early days yet, and we have time to be sure, but that's where my heart is heading." "Mine too," Lily admitted. "I never thought I'd find this. Love, partnership, a real home. It seemed like something that happened to other people, not to me." "Well, it's happening to you now," Benjamin said firmly, "and I intend to make sure you never doubt it for a moment." The courtship that followed was sweet and genuine, unfolding in the midst of daily life on the ranch. Benjamin brought Lily wildflowers from the desert, surprising her with small bouquets of desert marigolds and poppies. He took her riding in the early evenings, teaching her to handle a horse properly and showing her the most beautiful spots on the ranch. They talked for hours about everything and nothing, learning each other's stories and dreams and fears. True to his word, Benjamin took Lily to Douglas for a proper dinner date. They ate at the town's best restaurant, and afterward walked the main street as Benjamin introduced her to merchants and other ranchers. Lily realized he was showing her off, proud to have her on his arm, and the realization made her glow with happiness. Mrs. Chen watched their growing romance with approval, though she maintained her usual gruff demeanor. "About time that boy found someone," she muttered to Lily one day. "He's been lonely too long. You're good for him." "He's good for me too," Lily replied. "I never expected to find this kind of happiness." "Life is strange that way," Mrs. Chen said. "Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best ones. You were lost, now you're found. Simple as that." As summer deepened into fall, Lily's sewing business continued to grow. She was making good money from outside work, and true to her plan, she saved nearly every penny. Benjamin helped her open a bank account and encouraged her to keep careful records of her earnings and expenses. But even as her dream of a dress shop seemed increasingly achievable, Lily found herself less certain she wanted to pursue it. The truth was, she loved life on the ranch. She loved waking to the sound of Benjamin moving around in the morning, loved the peaceful rhythm of her days, loved the sense of community among the ranch hands, and the beauty of the desert landscape. The idea of moving to town and opening a shop seemed less appealing than staying right where she was. One October evening, as they sat on the porch wrapped in blankets against the cooling air, Lily voiced her uncertainty. "I've saved almost $200, she told Benjamin. "In a few more months, I'll have enough to seriously consider opening that shop in Douglas. But I've been thinking, and I'm not sure it's what I want anymore." Benjamin looked at her carefully. "What do you want?" "This," Lily said simply. "This life, this place, you. The shop seemed like the answer when I had nothing and nowhere to belong. But now I have somewhere I belong, here, with you." "Lily Preston, are you saying you want to stay on the ranch permanently?" "I am, if you'll have me." Benjamin set down his coffee cup and turned to face her fully. "I'll have you for the rest of my life if you're willing. In fact, I've been carrying something around for the past 2 weeks, trying to work up the courage to ask you properly." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Lily's breath stopped as he opened it to reveal a simple gold band with a small diamond, modest but beautiful. "I know we've only known each other a few months," Benjamin said, his voice slightly unsteady, "but I've never been more certain of anything in my life. I love you, Lily. I love your strength and your talent and your kind heart. I love the way you laugh and the way you see beauty in unexpected places. I love waking up knowing you're under the same roof and going to sleep thinking about you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you, building something together. So I'm asking, will you marry me?" Tears streamed down Lily's face as she nodded. "Yes, yes, absolutely yes." Benjamin slipped the ring onto her finger, and then he was kissing her for the first time, sweet and gentle and full of promise. Lily melted into the kiss, her hands coming up to rest against his chest, feeling his heart beating as fast as her own. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless and grinning, Benjamin said, "I was so nervous you'd say no." "Never," Lily said. "You're everything I never dared to hope for. How could I possibly say no?" They were married 6 weeks later, in a simple ceremony in Douglas, with Mrs. Chen and the ranch hands in attendance. Lily wore a dress she had made herself, cream-colored silk that she had splurged on from a merchant's catalog. Benjamin wore his best suit and looked so handsome that Lily's heart skipped when she saw him waiting at the altar. The ceremony was brief but meaningful. The vows they spoke to each other weighted with genuine emotion. When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, and Benjamin kissed her, Lily felt a completeness she had never experienced before. This was her family now, her home, her future. The ranch hands had decorated the house with flowers and bunting for their return, and Mrs. Chen had prepared a feast. They celebrated late into the evening, and when the guests finally left and it was just the two of them, Benjamin carried Lily over the threshold of what was now their shared bedroom in the East Wing. Their wedding night was tender and passionate, two people who had found each other against all odds, coming together with love and trust. Lily had been nervous, her experience limited, but Benjamin was patient and gentle, making sure she felt cherished and safe. Afterward, lying in his arms as the desert night pressed against the windows, Lily felt a peace so profound it brought fresh tears to her eyes. "No more crying," Benjamin murmured, kissing her forehead. "Unless they're happy tears." "They are," Lily assured him, "happiest of my life. I keep thinking about that day at the station, how lost and terrified I was, and then you appeared and offered me shelter. It felt like a miracle then. It still does." "You were the miracle for me," Benjamin said quietly. "I was going through the motions, running the ranch, but not really living. You brought life back to this place, back to me." The first years of their marriage were filled with hard work and deep contentment. Lily continued her sewing business but scaled it back, focusing on special orders and custom work that interested her while devoting more time to the ranch itself. She learned to ride properly, to help with the cattle, to manage the household alongside Mrs. Chen. Benjamin taught her to shoot, insisting that every rancher's wife should know how to handle a rifle. They worked side by side, partners in every sense of the word. Benjamin valued Lily's opinions on ranch decisions, and she found that she had a good head for the business side of operations. Together, they expanded the herd, purchased more land, and hired additional hands. The ranch prospered under their joint management. Their personal life was equally rich. They fell into easy routines of morning coffee together, evening rides, long conversations on the porch. They laughed often, weathered disagreements with respect and communication, and continued to discover new things about each other. The physical aspect of their marriage was fulfilling, a source of connection and joy that deepened their bond. In the spring of their second year of marriage, Lily realized she was pregnant. The realization came gradually, a combination of missed monthly courses and morning nausea that finally prompted her to consult the doctor in Douglas. When he confirmed her suspicions, Lily rode home in a daze of joy and terror. Benjamin's reaction was everything she could have hoped for. He whooped with delight, picked her up and spun her around despite her laughing protests, and immediately began worrying about her health and comfort. He became almost comically protective, insisting she rest more and stop doing heavy work around the ranch. "I'm pregnant, not made of glass," Lily protested after he physically carried her away from helping move feed sacks. You're carrying the most precious cargo in the world, Benjamin replied firmly. Our child. So yes, you're going to take it easy, and I'm not hearing any arguments. Mrs. Chen was equally pleased by the news, immediately taking over meal preparation with an eye toward foods that would support the pregnancy. She shared wisdom from her own culture about pregnancy and childbirth, some of it practical and some of it superstitious, but all of it offered with genuine care. The pregnancy progressed smoothly through spring and into summer. Lily bloomed, her face glowing with health despite the discomforts of morning sickness and the increasing heat. Benjamin talked to her swollen belly every night, telling their unborn child stories about the ranch and making ridiculous promises about ponies and adventures. In late August, on a hot afternoon when the air shimmered with heat, Lily went into labor. The doctor was summoned from Douglas, and Mrs. Chen took over with calm efficiency. Benjamin paced the house like a caged animal, torn between wanting to be with Lily and being banished from the birthing room by Mrs. Chen's firm instructions. The labor was long and difficult, and there were hours when Benjamin prayed harder than he ever had in his life. But finally, as the sun was setting in a blaze of orange and gold, a baby's cry split the air. Benjamin burst into the bedroom to find Lily exhausted but smiling, holding a tiny bundle. "Ah, we have a son," she said, her voice hoarse but filled with wonder. "Benjamin, we have a son." He crossed to the bed and looked down at the baby, a red-faced, perfect little human with a surprising amount of dark hair. Tears streamed down his face as he gently touched his son's tiny hand, marveling when those impossibly small fingers curled around his own. "He's beautiful," Benjamin whispered. "You're both beautiful. God, Lily, I've never been so scared or so happy in my entire life." They named him William Benjamin Parker, calling him Will from the start. He was a good baby, alert and curious about his surroundings. Benjamin was a devoted father, refusing to be one of those men who left child-rearing entirely to the women. He changed diapers, walked the floor during fussy nights, and could often be found in the rocking chair telling Will stories about the ranch in the desert. Lily watched her husband with their son and fell in love with him all over again. The tenderness Benjamin showed, the patience and joy he took in fatherhood, revealed new depths to his character that she treasured. Will was 6 months old when Benjamin brought up the idea of expansion. "I've been thinking," he said one evening as they sat together watching Will play on a blanket on the floor. "The ranch is doing well, really well. We've got more business than we can handle with the current operation. What would you think about bringing in a partner? Someone who could manage the day-to-day operations of a second location while we oversee both?" Lily considered this. "Do you have someone in mind?" "Actually, I do. Remember Tommy, the young hand who worked for us your first summer here? He's been working at the Miller Ranch, but I heard he's looking for an opportunity to do more than just hired handwork. He's got good instincts, and he's a hard worker. I thought I might offer him a deal where he manages a satellite operation north of here. We'd still own the land and cattle, but he'd have a percentage stake and room to grow." "I think that sounds like a solid plan." Lily agreed. "You have good judgment about people. If you think Tommy can handle it, I trust your assessment." The expansion proved successful, and over the next few years, the Parker Ranch became one of the most prosperous operations in the territory. But even as their material success grew, Benjamin and Lily never lost sight of what mattered most: family, integrity, and the values they wanted to instill in their children. Children, plural, because Will was joined by a daughter 2 years later. Lily had hoped for a girl, and when Margaret Rose Parker made her appearance on a cool October morning, the whole ranch celebrated. She had Lily's brown eyes and Benjamin's smile, and from the beginning, she had her father wrapped around her tiny finger. Watching Benjamin with Margaret was a revelation. He had been a wonderful father to Will, but with his daughter, he revealed a softness that melted Lily's heart. He sang to her, made up elaborate stories, and treated her like the most precious thing in the world. Will, now a sturdy toddler, was fascinated by his baby sister. He would sit next to her cradle for long stretches, just watching her sleep, and would run to get Lily or Benjamin the moment Margaret made a sound. "You're such a good big brother," Lily told him, smoothing his dark hair back from his forehead. "Protect Maggie," Will said seriously, using the nickname that would stick. Papa said, "That's right," Benjamin confirmed, ruffling his son's hair. Parker men take care of their family. Always. The years flowed by, marked by the cycles of ranching life and the milestones of their growing children. Will learned to ride before he could properly write his name, while Maggie showed an early talent for working with animals. They were bright, curious children, raised with love and firm boundaries, learning the value of hard work and the beauty of the land they called home. Mrs. Chen aged gracefully, her hair going completely white, but her spirit remaining strong. She adored the children, teaching them practical skills and occasional words in Cantonese, telling them stories about her homeland that they absorbed with wide-eyed fascination. When Will was 8 and Maggie was 6, Lily discovered she was pregnant again. This pregnancy was unexpected, coming at a time when she had assumed her childbearing years were behind her. But the surprise turned to joy. And Benjamin was as excited as he had been with their first. The pregnancy was harder than the previous two, with more fatigue and discomfort. Lily was 33 now, and her body didn't bounce back quite as easily. But Benjamin was attentive and supportive, and the children were old enough to help in small ways. Their third child, another boy they named James, arrived during a spring rainstorm that broke a long drought. He was smaller than his siblings had been at birth, but healthy and strong. Will and Maggie were enchanted with their new brother, competing for the honor of holding him and helping with his care. "Our family feels complete now," Lily told Benjamin one night as they watched all 3 children sleeping. "I look at them and I think about where I was before I met you, and it seems impossible that this is my life." "This was always meant to be your life," Benjamin said, pulling her close. "You were meant to be here, with me, raising these beautiful children and building this legacy. I've never doubted that for a moment." Time continued its steady march. The children grew, the ranch prospered, and Benjamin and Lily grew older together with grace and deepening love. They celebrated anniversaries and birthdays, weathered droughts and economic downturns, mourned the death of Mrs. Chen when the children were in their teens, and rejoiced in the good years. Will grew into a fine young man, tall and strong like his father, with a natural aptitude for ranching and a gentle way with animals. He took on more responsibility at the ranch as he matured, eventually becoming Benjamin's right hand in managing operations. Maggie inherited her mother's creative talents, along with her father's business sense. She surprised everyone by declaring at 16 that she wanted to open the dress shop that Lily had once dreamed of. With her parents' support, she did exactly that, opening a successful business in Douglas that served the growing community. James, the youngest, was the scholar of the family. He loved books and learning, and at 18, he went to California to attend university. Benjamin and Lily were proud, though they missed him terribly during his years away. The years when the children were grown and creating their own lives were bittersweet for Benjamin and Lily. The house seemed quiet without the chaos of young ones, but they found joy in this new phase of life. They traveled some, visiting James in California and taking a memorable trip to San Francisco. They continued to work the ranch, though with hired help doing more of the physical labor. Will married a sweet-natured young woman named Emma, and they gave Benjamin and Lily their first grandchildren, twin boys who were absolute terrors in the best possible way. Maggie married a lawyer from Douglas, and they had a daughter who showed early signs of inheriting the family's creative talents. Even James, ensconced in his academic life, eventually married and produced a son. Benjamin and Lily embraced their roles as grandparents with enthusiasm. Their home became the gathering place for family celebrations, filled with noise and laughter and the chaos of multiple generations coming together. One evening, as they sat on their porch watching the sunset as they had done countless times over the decades, Benjamin took Lily's hand. They were in their 60s now, their hair silver, their faces lined with years of sun and laughter. "Do you remember the day we met?" Benjamin asked. "You standing on that platform with nowhere to go?" "I remember every detail," Lily said. "I was so scared, trying so hard to hold myself together, and then you appeared and offered me hope when I had none." "Best decision I ever made," Benjamin said firmly, "bringing you home that day. Everything good in my life stems from that moment." "Mine too," Lily agreed. "You gave me more than shelter, Benjamin. You gave me a family, a purpose, a home in every sense of the word. You gave me love, real, true, lasting love." They sat in comfortable silence as the sky turned from orange to purple to deep blue studded with stars. The desert night sang its familiar song, and somewhere in the distance, cattle lowed. The sounds of the ranch, the smells of sage and earth, the feeling of Benjamin's hand in hers, all of it combined into a sense of rightness that Lily had never stopped being grateful for. "I love you," Benjamin said quietly. "I've loved you from that first day, and I'll love you until my last day and beyond." "And I love you," Lily replied, "my cowboy who saved me, my partner, my everything." The years that remained to them were sweet and peaceful. They watched their grandchildren grow, celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary surrounded by family and friends, and continued to work the ranch at a gentler pace. When Benjamin's heart finally gave out at 72, he died peacefully in his sleep with Lily beside him, exactly as he would have wanted. Lily mourned him deeply, but not desperately. They had lived a full life together, loved completely, built something lasting. She remained on the ranch, supported by her children and surrounded by grandchildren and eventually great-grandchildren. She lived to be 87, still sharp-minded and independent, until nearly the end. On her last day, lying in the bed she had shared with Benjamin for so many years, surrounded by family, Lily thought back to that young woman standing alone on a train platform in Douglas, Arizona. That girl could never have imagined the richness that awaited her, the love and joy and purpose that would fill her days. "Tell them," she whispered to Will, who held her hand. "Tell them the story. How sometimes when you have nowhere to go and life seems darkest, a stranger can appear and offer you everything. Tell them how love finds you when you least expect it, and how a single moment of kindness can change everything." "We'll tell them, Mama," Will promised, tears streaming down his weathered face. "We'll make sure they know." Lily smiled, closed her eyes, and let herself drift away to wherever Benjamin was waiting. Behind her, she left a legacy of love and family, of hard work and integrity, of a life fully lived. The ranch would continue, passed down through generations, but it would always be remembered as the place where a lost young woman found her home and built a love story that would echo through time. The Parker Ranch stood as testament to the truth that sometimes the most profound journeys begin with a single step or a single question. She'd been at the station with nowhere to go in the world, and the cowboy had said his ranch had room for her. In that simple exchange, 2 lives had been transformed, and a story began that would be told and retold for generations, a reminder that kindness matters, that love endures, and that home is not a place, but the people who welcome you in and make space for you in their hearts.